time. My name
So
is Sam. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at Fairygodboss. And Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women. Our mission is to improve the workplace by increasing transparency, and we offer a ton of great free resources like anonymous company reviews, job listings, articles, virtual recruiting events, and so much more to help you succeed throughout your career. We will be recording today's session and sending it in a follow-up email later today, as well as posting it to the Fairy Godboss website on that same page that you all registered on. So if you missed anything or you want to rewatch this back at any point, you will have the ability to do so. We'll also be taking your questions at the end of today's webinar. You'll find the Q&A at the bottom of your screen alongside the chat. Feel free to leave your questions there and we will get to as many as possible at the end. Note, you can leave questions as yourself or anonymously, so don't be afraid to ask whatever comes to mind. Here with me today is executive voice coach Melanie Espeland. Melanie earned her bachelor's from Cornell University and then launched her business career in New York's fast-paced fashion industry. Adding to her business expertise, she earned an MBA from Columbia and worked as a consultant with McKinsey & Company. After McKinsey, Melanie applied the knowledge she'd acquired to establish her own consulting firm, Espeland Enterprises. In addition to her business pursuits, she's a successful voice actor. And as both a business consultant and voice actor, she concluded that there was a very specific niche that she could serve: business professionals looking to improve their leadership and communication skills. Melanie now trains senior clients from top companies such as IBM and Morgan Stanley to use their voices more effectively, optimizing an important tool that is often ignored. And we're going to get into that right now. Thank you so much for being here today, Melanie. I'll pass it over to you.
awesome. Thanks so much, Samantha. I appreciate it. And thank you everybody who has taken the time out of their busy schedules to be here today. I really do appreciate it. And my goal for you today is to walk away from this webinar with actionable tools that you can use immediately. And that will be with you for the rest of your career. So that's what I hope to achieve. What I would like to do to get started is I'd first like for us to do just a really brief grounding meditation and breathing exercise. Now, the reason for this is I'm finding that now that we're living in this digital world, especially during COVID, a lot of my clients have digital fatigue and they have this cognitive dissonance where they're not really communicating well over Zoom. They don't really feel connected to others, which is really natural. Our human brains are not built for looking at screens all day. We're built for being in person. So it is a very difficult cognitive dissonance that we have to overcome. So what I'd like to do is really just set our groundwork and really get everybody prepared to be in the moment today. So if you can shut off your Slack notifications, your email, put your phone away, whatever might distract you, and just be here in the moment with us. It will truly help you to be more mindful and to be just a better communicator in general. So whenever you can do that in any of your meetings, try to be as present as possible since you do have to do this through a screen. Now, if you can go ahead and just close your eyes with me, I want us to just do a quick breathing meditation to get us ready to go. So if you can put your hand over your heart, you can go ahead and just close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose. And you can just inhale and exhale slowly. Try to keep your inhales through your nose and your exhales out of your mouth. And you can just keep thinking about your inhales and your exhales. If anything else comes into your mind, that's okay. Honor it and go back to your breath. And as you work on your breathing, feel free to consider what you'd like to accomplish today. Think about what made you sign up for today's webinar. Have an intention for what you'd like to accomplish. Keep inhaling and exhaling. And know that you can come back to this practice of just Taking a moment for yourself to inhale and exhale and just set your intentions whenever you need to. This can be something you do before any major meetings, before you start your workday, whatever it may be. And just know that this is something you can always do for yourself. You can take 1 or 2 minutes to do this, to get yourself ready and in the moment to communicate well. I want you to take one last nice deep breath in and a breath out. And just slowly bring your attention back to the computer, back to this room, this digital room that we're in, and slowly open back up your eyes. All right. So I encourage all of you to do a little bit of that if you can throughout your workday. It'll really help you to be prepared to actually communicate and to be in the moment and really be connected into what you're saying. I do find that a lot of us feel very disconnected these days, as I said, and we're also disconnected from ourselves. So the more connected you are to yourself, the more connected you will be to others. So I think that's something you can think about and ponder after we leave today's session. All right. So thank you for doing that with me. What I would love to do first is just kind of get us started, is to talk a little bit about some physical exercises that you can do to basically build some awareness and therefore start to build your control over your body, your face, your tongue, your mouth. This is an instrument that you're playing. And frankly, for a lot of you, the instrument is playing you right now. You want to be playing it. And that instrument is what's creating your voice and your overall presence and communication. So, one wonderful thing that you can start to do is learn about tongue placement. Most of you probably speak American English or perhaps grew up in the US, and you probably speak with your tongue more so in a middle placement in the mouth. Nothing wrong with that. However, it can be better. If you speak with your tongue in a little bit more of a forward placement, it can allow you to have a little bit more gravitas. It can give you better projection. You can have clearer diction. And overall, it can give you a little bit more of that warmth that you might be looking for. So I would love to show you how to do this. Now, if you look at the side of my face, the tongue is sitting like this, and the tongue can pull back and pull forward. So there's no gymnastics, there's no curling of the tongue. It's just staying nice and parallel to the bottom of your mouth. And I want to show you the fact that you already know how to move around your tongue placement in your mouth. You're just unaware of it. It's subconscious. So you're welcome to do this at home with me or just listen, whatever's easier for you. But I'd like for you to try to make the R sound, almost like a pirate would go, R, R. And you're going to be pulling that tongue back in your mouth naturally to make that sound. So that gives you a sense of, oh, I already know how to do this. It's just more subconscious. So the R sound pulls your tongue backward. Now, the sound that pulls your tongue forward in the English language would be the TH sound. So that would be words like this, the, then, there. And that pulls your tongue forward, almost in between your sets of front teeth. And so that's a really nice goal for us to just be more aware of moving that tongue a little bit more forward in the mouth, similar to this TH sound. So I want you guys to go ahead and say, they thought the thesis was thorough. They thought the thesis was thorough. So that'll help you to get a sense of moving that tongue forward. Now, what you can do as well is you can practice now moving your tongue into the back, middle, and front of your mouth, just to get, again, a good sense of how you can do this consciously and not just subconsciously when you're making specific sounds. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this for you. It might be a little bit difficult to do this as a disclaimer. If it is, don't feel bad about it. Don't worry. It is totally natural for this to feel super awkward up front. It's something new that you're trying to build. It's really a muscle that you're trying to build with your body. It's also a mind-body connection, understanding how to consciously control it. So if it feels weird, that's okay. You can always practice it. And what might also help is to build the mind body connection is actually hold yourself on the back of your mouth around here when you're trying to move your tongue backward, then in the middle, and then forward. Sometimes this hand placement actually can help your brain to move your tongue where you need it to go. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. This is me talking with my tongue in the back of my mouth. It sounds very silly. Most people don't talk like this, but it shows you how different you can sound based on tongue placement. Now my tongue is more so in the middle of my mouth. This is how most people speak. It sounds okay, but it's a little bit muffled. It's not that clear. It's kind of okay. And then this is me with my tongue in the front of my mouth. Wow, what a difference, right? And this is how I tend to normally speak based upon just my own personal speech patterns as well as the training that I've had. So you can hear that there's a huge difference based upon tongue placement. So again, back of the mouth, middle of the mouth, and front of the mouth. So again, I want everybody to go ahead and practice that tonight. And this is something you can keep practicing on a daily basis. You can do it in the shower. You can do it when you're watching reality TV, whenever you get 2 to 5 minutes to do this. Just practice moving that tongue forward. You can practice by saying your name. You can practice by saying that TH sound. That's also very helpful. So any kind of tongue twister with that TH sound, like they thought the thesis was thorough, is a nice way to get that tongue moving forward. Another note that I'll throw in there is I find that for a lot of us, we have a little bit of trouble hearing differences in our own voice because we're kind of used to hearing it. So it's really challenging for us to understand, how do I sound? You can always record yourself on Zoom. You can record yourself on your phone, any kind of device, just to get a sense of how you're sounding differently as you try some of these different exercises. So I would highly encourage you to do that. And the other thing you can do, which is fun, is you can literally pull your ears away from your head like this. So I know I look a little ridiculous, but this works. So if you think about it, your ear is flat to the side of your head. So you're more or less hearing yourself literally inside your head versus if you pull them forward, you're getting a better sense of what you sound like to other people. So that can also be helpful to do that when you're practicing at home to again, just get a sense of what do I actually sound like? So that's a great tip for all of you to get started. Now I'm looking at my notes, and I think the next thing that I want to talk about briefly is Zoom setup. So, how do you actually get yourself ready on a super tactical level for all of your meetings that are happening now online? So, something I see happen so often is the fact that people are not looking forward. Their eyes are not parallel to the ground. Their chin is not parallel to the ground. They're doing this, or they're doing this, or something kind of like this. We don't want to do this. You are affecting your ability to make beautiful sound. The sound is not traveling nicely through your throat and out of your mouth. It's either getting constricted like this, or you're pulling up your vocal cords and increasing your volume, excuse me, not your volume, your pitch and your reaching. So you want to make sure that you're as flat as possible. I highly recommend getting an external monitor that you can set at eye level, even having multiple monitors. I personally work with multiple monitors when I work with my clients. It's just a huge help. It's a logistical issue. It's so easy to fix. So I would highly encourage all of you to either purchase an inexpensive monitor or frankly go to your company and say, "Hey, this is necessary for my work performance," and really push them to get that for you. Additionally, what you need to do is have some good lighting. I'm very lucky to have this beautiful wall of windows behind me, so I have this gorgeous natural light. You can also certainly mimic this with a ring light that you can buy for cheap on Amazon. You can have two table lamps on the sides of your monitor. So there's a lot of different ways to just make sure your lighting is clear so that everyone can see your face. Your face is communicating a lot along with your sound. There's the verbal and nonverbal cues. So I want everyone to see your beautiful face. So that's another thing to make sure that you are doing when you're on your at home Zoom calls. And lastly, make sure that your sound quality is good. Your external microphone, I do use one sometimes. Again, I've had a lot of training with my voice, so it's possible for me to do that. You don't necessarily have to do that. You can use an external microphone. And one I would recommend is the Snowball Blue. This can be purchased for under $100 on Amazon. So again, tell your companies, hey, we need a budget for this. I need a stipend. I need this to be able to work well when I'm at home. So don't be afraid to ask for these things. All right. Now, I think the next thing that I'd like to talk about is Hmm, let's talk about warmth because I hear this a lot, especially interestingly from women that I work with. There is always gender in language, and I hate to say this, but it is true. So I want us to be prepared for how do we deal with gendered language expectations. Women, especially in the US, are expected to have a certain amount of warmth in their voice. In addition to that, I would recommend that you have warmth in your voice because it helps you to connect to your audience. So I want you to know, how do you address that when it comes up in a conversation, or how do you address that when you want to be warm and connect to your audience, especially if you have to be persuasive in any way, which I'm sure a lot of you do have to do. Now, warmth can be achieved with melodic patterns. Now, melody is made up of a lot of different things. There's going to be pace, there's going to be certainly different emotions that you can use, there's going to be pitch, inflections, all these different things make up melody. And you have melody when you're speaking as well as when you're singing. So, one thing you can do is you can have gratitude in your melody. And gratitude is so underused. I mean, it's amazing. When you start using it, you will be pretty much, I think you'll be blown away by how powerful this can be. Gratitude in terms of melody can be done by slowing down your pace and by lengthening the syllables of words. So, not only slowing down the entire pace of the sentence from start to finish, but also lengthening the word. So, I could say something like, "Hi, Melanie here." Or I could say, "Hi, Melanie Espeland is here." Okay, we hear you. She's here. Now, that's a great way also to introduce yourself on any kind of Zoom call because you are taking time to let people know that you have arrived. So always take time to introduce yourself, even if everybody on the call knows who you are, because you want them to know you're taking up that space and that they should hear you and listen to you. So that's a nice side note. So again, with the gratitude and with this melody, again, it's lengthening out those syllables, also taking a little bit more time to say the sentence. And then additionally, you're going to speak with a slightly lower pitch. Now, certainly, lower pitches in general tend to be seen as those that are more authoritative, ones with more leadership quality, etc. As women, a lot of women on this call, and certainly if there's any men on this call, I never want you to fake a pitch. I never want you to try to speak lower or higher than you can naturally. However, we all have different octaves that we can speak within. And so, one way that you can lower that pitch is through a breathing technique, which I'll get into next. So, in general, with gratitude, I really want you to think about that the next time you need to have some warmth in conversation. Again, lengthen your words, slow down your pace a little bit, and make sure you're speaking with that lowest part of your register. Okay. So, again, it's going from being like this and being like, "Hi, I'm Melanie. Great to see everybody," to, "Hi, everyone. You have Melanie here," and end on that lower note. Don't inflect upward at the end. You don't want to say, "Hi, everyone, Melanie here." You want to say, "Hi, everyone, Melanie here." So end on that lower pitch just to really make it sound nice and beautiful. So remember to bring that gratitude into your practice and into the way that you speak with others. A lovely way that you can also bring more gratitude into the way that you communicate in order to warm up your communication is through a gratitude journal. I do it. I love it. I think it's so fabulous. You literally take a minute every day at the end of your day, jot down in your phone or in a notebook, whatever you prefer, one or two things that you're grateful for from that day. It could be something as simple as, "I had a really delicious matcha latte. It was awesome. I'm grateful for that." Or it could be, "I'm really grateful for my children," whatever it might be. So go ahead, start that gratitude practice, and then all of a sudden you'll realize, "Oh, wow, I have a lot to be grateful for." And then that kind of starts to come through in your communication and it'll naturally warm you up a little bit. So I guarantee you it's fantastic. And it's a really lovely thing to do too. When you're feeling down, you can look at that gratitude journal. All right. So that's gratitude. I think the next thing we should do then is the diaphragmatic breathing exercise, because this ties into speaking with gratitude, with warmth, changing your melody by allowing you to speak a little bit more from a lower pitch, which can be very powerful. A lot of women tend to be socialized to speak at a higher register or a higher pitch, or they inflect upward at the end of sentences, which I'm sure you guys have heard as upspeak, where things start to sound like a question when they're not a question. And so I want us to kind of work away from that. And I want you to be more confident and to really own your voice and to speak from that lower part of your register, which is going to be heard as the most powerful part of your register. So, what we're going to do is you just have to work on your breathing. The breathing is really important because, again, we're talking about this instrument is your body. Your voice is air, it's breath coming out that we are manipulating with your diaphragm, your rib cage, your lungs, your tongue, your lips. All these things are manipulating it. So, the more air that you have, the more breath that you have to play with, the better off you are. The more it can flow out of your mouth, the more you have to play with, the less breaks you have to take for breaths, and you're going to have a much prettier sound. And you are going to have more resonance, more of that kind of je ne sais quoi in the way that you sound. A lot of us talk about gravitas. It's going to give you a little bit more of that oomph in how you speak. So, the way we're going to do this is I want you to use your diaphragm. If you don't know where your diaphragm is, I'm going to explain it. Your diaphragm is kind of shaped like this. It's like a dome-shaped muscle, and it sits under the bra line, and very similar spot for men, of course, as well. But it's right under that bra line, and you can feel it potentially working with your rib cage and then with your lungs to get air in and out of the body. A lot of us are using our breath in here. It's very shallow. And so it can really change the way you sound if you start to breathe more using your diaphragm. Now, this is something singers know, but a lot of regular folks, we don't necessarily know how to do this. And I'm going to show you now how different I sound if I take a very shallow breath into my chest versus a nice deep breath in using my diaphragm. You're going to hear a difference in my voice. So just give me a moment to show that to you. Hi, I'm Melanie. Hi, I'm Melanie. So different, right? I mean, my pitch is completely different. I'm speaking from the highest part of my natural pitch down to the lowest. It's pretty incredible. So, overall, I want you guys to feel like you have that breath control so that you have more fuel for the fire, which is your voice. And we really want to get you nice and deep into that lower part of your personal register. Okay. So, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and put one hand on your chest. And I know you can't see my whole body, but you're going to put the other hand on your belly. And the reason you're doing this is it is difficult to feel your diaphragm externally. So the belly is kind of a proxy. The belly will kind of let you know that, oh, okay, I'm using my diaphragm, I'm not using my diaphragm. And you will feel that hand on your belly moving inward and outward if you are using your diaphragm. And again, this is similar to the tongue placement. It may feel really weird. It may feel super awkward. If it does, that's totally okay. This again is going to take practice. So just feel free to just try it. If it feels super weird, again, totally okay. You can continue to practice this tonight, tomorrow, anytime. So again, one hand on the chest, one hand on your belly. I want you to feel the hand on your belly moving in and out. We're going to take a really nice deep breath in through the nose, get a lot of oxygen into the blood, and then we're going to breathe out through our mouths. We're going to purse our lips like this, making that nice round shape with the lips. And you're going to control your exhale. You want that exhale to last as long as you can. So you're really controlling how much air is being expelled. If your exhale is shorter than mine, again, that's okay. It takes practice. So go ahead and do the best you can at home. Go ahead and follow me. Get a nice deep breath in. All right. I hope that that felt good for everybody. It is a very relaxing technique as well, something really awesome to do if you do get nervous before any public speaking or meetings. And it helps to teach you how to breathe properly. So that's something I would highly encourage all of you to do at home is really be very thoughtful about, am I using my diaphragm? How is my breathing? Am I breathing really shallow? Like, what's going on with me? I think one of the best ways to do this is set an alarm on your phone. So that way, maybe every hour, every 3 hours, once a day, whatever works for you, have that alarm say, check your breathing. See how you're breathing. Are you breathing shallow? Are you using that diaphragm? Put your hand on your belly and see how it feels. Another thing you can do, which I think is really fun, is you can make yourself laugh. Laughing utilizes your diaphragm, so it kind of whips your body into the shape that you need it to be in. It kind of gets you into that right breathing pattern. So you can also, when you're doing your breath check, make sure that you make yourself laugh. So you can look at a funny meme or a movie clip, like whatever silly thing makes you laugh, just have it on deck, ready to go. Maybe you save it in an email folder, and that can also help you to get your body back into the correct breathing mode, so to speak. So, yeah, again, the technique is one hand here on the chest, one hand on your belly, breathing in through the nose, breathing out through pursed lips. And again, doing the best you can to learn how to control that breath and breathe in deeply. So I think that that is it then for diaphragmatic breathing. Oh, and one other thing I do want you also to know, you can practice that sitting. So you can see I'm just sitting in a regular chair. You can do that sitting. You can also practice that laying down. So I do have some clients that prefer to do it laying down. You can do it either way, whatever feels better for you. Now, the next thing I'm looking at my notes that I want to talk about, ooh, this is going to be fun. We can work on a little bit of diction. So, diction is very important, making sure that people can really hear what you have to say on a literal sense. And then also that projection. So, getting those words across the room, giving it a little bit more power, even though we're in a digital room, you still want your words to travel far so that people can literally hear you, but also figuratively hear you in a more powerful sense. So there's a really cool trick that I picked up from some friends that have performed in Hamilton on Broadway in New York. It's so fantastic. I use it as well to warm myself up before I have a major event. So if you have a pen, some sort of pen, marker, something around this shape, please take it and go ahead and practice along with me. Now, this is basically a barbell, this pen. If you think about it, if you came to me and said, hey, Melanie, I want to work on my biceps or some muscle in my arm, I would say, okay, I'm going to give you a barbell and you're going to work on that. Now, this is kind of similar. This is a barbell for all of these muscles and articulators in your mouth and your face. All of these muscles are working to create sound. Again, this breath is coming out of your mouth and we're manipulating it to create the English language. Now, what we want to do is we want to get some of these lazier muscles to toughen up, and we really want them to kind of whip into shape, so to speak. Your jaw and your tongue are doing quite a lot of the heavy lifting. And so we want them to be handicapped by using this pen in order to force all these other muscles to wake up. So how does that work? You basically are going to place the pen inside your mouth. It's going to go on top of your tongue, and then you're going to hold it in place utilizing your jaw and your teeth. So it's going to look like this. So again, on top of my tongue, like that, and keep it in place with your teeth. And I sound really silly when I do this. So you can see that it is quite difficult to speak and articulate when this pen is in your mouth, but that's the whole point. You want to put this in your mouth so that it's very difficult for you to speak. Again, you are making it difficult to use your MVPs, really your jaw, your tongue, and you're getting all those other muscles to work hard. Now, I would highly recommend doing this before you have a major presentation with a lot of people. It really helps to kind of warm you up. It can be a great thing to do even in the morning before you start your day if you do talk a lot during the day. And the other way to kind of amp it up is you can practice this using tongue twisters. Tongue twisters in general are difficult to say, thus the name tongue twisters. And so utilizing the pen trick can make it even easier than to make it very effective. And so that can be a really nice way to practice. So you can take an old tongue twister, such as, she sells seashells by the seashore. And you can say that with the pen in your mouth. And so that can be a great way, again, for you to really amp up this pen in your mouth trick and allow it to be super effective. So I would highly recommend doing that. Last note on this, I think that I want to share is for some of us, specific sounds in the English language are really challenging. So, for instance, if you potentially grew up speaking maybe Mandarin and Cantonese and English, or learned English at a later stage, that TH sound we talked about earlier can be difficult. So, that's one sound I found can be difficult. And I think that in general, you want to find out what sounds are difficult for you and then utilize certain tongue twisters with this pen in your mouth technique to make sure that you're working on them. And I think I did just see a quick comment, someone asking for me to show you how to do this again. So happy to do it. Again, you're taking a pen, it can also be a marker, a pencil, something similarly shaped to this, placing it in your mouth on top of the tongue. All right, so it's going on top of your tongue, holding your tongue basically in place, and then holding it with your teeth. So you're holding it in place with your teeth on your jaw. So your jaw and your tongue are having difficulty moving. So again, that's the key here. You want those two to not be able to move so that it's more difficult for them to perform. And I think I did just see one other comment, and it has, I know there's been a lot of comments, so I apologize if I haven't been able to address many, and we'll certainly get to that now with the Q&A coming up. But I did see someone saying, can I use a tongue depressor? That would work as well. So again, truly the whole point of this pen is you want to handicap the tongue and the jaw. The only bad thing about a tongue depressor is that there's not a lot of height to it. So it won't do as much with the jaw and really holding that jaw in place. So maybe something with a little bit more height as well as width would be a little bit better. But in a pinch, that's a great thing to do. I even had a client once use the back of a spoon, the long part of a spoon, to do this exercise. So you can get creative as needed. So with that, I think the last thing I want to go over before we go into some Q&A, because I'm seeing lots of comments, which is awesome, and I love doing Q&A. Last thing I want to talk about is just waking up the facial muscles to just kind of get you ready to go. A lot of us hold so much tension in the face, especially in here. A lot of jaw tension, a lot of tension in this part of the face, which is really unfortunate because that truly is affecting your literal sound. So it's affecting your sound quality. And it also is affecting your nonverbal cues of being able to communicate with the face, which is doubly important now that almost everything is done via camera. And so the rest of your body language is lost and all the verbal cues are basically in here. So one thing that's really nice to do is to kind of check what's going on with my jaw muscles. Do I have a lot of tension coming in here? Like what's happening? So I would encourage you to think about working on these muscles. One thing that you can do is you're going to find the back of your jaw. So basically, this is where my teeth end, where I'm pressing in with my index finger. You're going to find that part and go in at about a, say, 45-degree angle. And you're going to go ahead and press in, and you're going to find that spot on your face and massage it. And that's going to be, you're going to know it when you find it. It's going to be the spot where your muscles are connecting your top and your lower jaw. Now, this is really where you're going to want to push in and work on yourself. And you can do it on both sides at the same time. And it may feel very uncomfortable if you do have a lot of tension. And it may also feel more intense on one side versus the other because we do have some asymmetry in the face. So it's possible one side is more tense than the other. But I would highly encourage you to do this in order to kind of get your face nice and warmed up and ready to go. Because I do find this tension in the jaw and in the lower part of the face is really common. And it's something that I want you to be able to be aware of and to kind of wake it up. The other thing you can do to get these muscles to be a little bit less tense and to work them out is by placing one finger inside the mouth, one finger on the outside, and get that muscle both internally as well as externally. So again, you can place your thumb inside your mouth, index finger on the outside like this. Okay. And then you can massage that muscle from both the inside of the mouth as well as the outside. That is extremely effective as well in regards to opening it up. And just be mindful of yourself. You can even watch yourself in a mirror. You can watch a recording of yourself from work, from a work meeting, and just see how much is happening in here, how much you're moving. I do also find sometimes people speak with a very kind of tight mouth like this, and you can hear that I sound a little bit different, and it's really nowhere near as beautiful as really opening up the mouth and using all this to create sound. So definitely be aware of that and go ahead and practice that at home. I would highly encourage you to do that. It will help you to kind of wake up those muscles and be a better communicator verbally and non-verbally. So, with all that being said, there are some other notes I have, but I think what would be fun is to go into Q&A since we have about 20 minutes left. And I see Samantha, there she is. She will help me to look at all of your questions, your comments, and happy to just dive right in.
Awesome. You can leave your questions in the Q&A. I saw a ton of great ones coming through the chat, but the Q&A is going to be the easiest way for us to manage them. Again, you'll find that at the bottom of your screen where you found your chat before. Feel free to leave questions as yourself or anonymously. We did have a bunch come in, so let's jump right in. One anonymous attendee asked, I don't think you've said at all. Do you have any tips on how to train yourself not to use filler words like that when you're speaking?
That's such a great question. And I swear sometimes when I'm working with clients on this, because then it's in your head, it's like, don't think of the elephant. Then all of a sudden I start to use them. So it is pretty fun. If you're overthinking it, sometimes they come out. I would say that there's a couple things you can do with filler words. I would say one of them is you need to basically create a Pavlovian response where you stop doing them. So, with somebody that you trust, maybe it is a roommate or a friend or a significant other in a low stakes situation, so certainly not in a business meeting, but in a low stakes situation, have them call you out when you do it and create specific times for this so that it doesn't become too taxing on yourself and the other person. So, for example, if you're having a FaceTime call with a friend because it's COVID, we can't go out too much. Maybe you're having a FaceTime call with a friend and you say, hey, for the next hour, please tell me if I use a filler word. And everybody has their go tos. For some people, it's some it's some it's like, some it's yeah, no. It can be all these different things. So you should know which ones you use often, and your friend will be able to tell you as well since they know you. So have them call you out. When they call you out, you have to repeat the sentence over again, not using that word. That will be very helpful for you. So that's the first thing you need to do. So it's truly Pavlovian training it out of you. The second thing you can do is speak a little bit more slowly. Sometimes we're using those filler words because our brains are having a little bit of difficulty catching up to the pace or melody at which we are speaking. That especially happens when you're nervous. So you are going to have quicker speaking patterns if you have increased cortisol levels, increased adrenaline, your heart is beating faster, and all of a sudden your brain is saying, I have no idea what to say next. And then all of a sudden a filler word comes out. So just try taking that deep breath in, use the breathing exercise that I showed you, and just try to slow down that pace. Try to find that gratitude melody. Just slow it down. You will find you use less filler words because you are giving yourself more time to actually consider what the heck do I want to say. I
Perfect.
would say, yeah, I would say thirdly, one other thing. For some of us, we use filler words to save us or buy us time, which sometimes is important, and especially in a business meeting, if you're getting thrown a couple questions you perhaps were not 100% prepared for. There are a few other ways you can buy yourself time. So, for example, you could say something like, that is such an interesting point. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That gives you a couple seconds to think about what the heck do I want to say. You could also say, thank you so much for bringing that up, and then start speaking again. So, water is a great prop. I love having water always next to me. Great prop for buying yourself time where you won't have to use any filler words or say something that you don't want to say. It's also a great way to stay hydrated so that you sound good. So, yeah, I would say those are my key tips.
Perfect. And somebody in the chat I saw recommended Toastmasters as well. That's a great resource that I'd encourage
Ah,
you to check out. I know a lot of people have had some success with that, to varying levels, of course, but definitely a good resource to look into. We
I
had,
agree. It's all about, just to add to that, Samantha, it's all
yeah,
about practice, right? Communication, this is a skill. Speaking is a skill. You have to practice it. So any chance that you get, Toastmasters is awesome. Doing something like that with your group of friends that you trust, anything to build the practice, just go for it.
we had I saw a number of questions, but there's two in the Q&A right now, both from anonymous attendees about controlling the volume levels in our voices. One person said, I have this very bad habit of speaking too loud, and I know part of it has to be with doing, part of it has to do with being in a loud family and not feeling heard. I
Okay.
am laughing because I come from a very loud family as well. And
Mm,
then similarly, another attendee said, how do you handle a situation when there's a lot of background noise without shouting over that noise?
yeah, got it. That's so interesting because for a lot of us, our speaking habits are going to be based upon our own narratives. And so if you believe that you are not heard, you probably will try to speak louder. And so that makes a lot of sense to me. I think for that individual that asked that question, I would have an affirmation that you say to yourself every day, which is, I am heard. Start saying that to yourself. The brain cannot make sense of what's imaginary and what's not. So when it hears that, it's processing it and saying, oh, I'm heard. Oh, okay, we've got to change our wiring in here. And so that's one of the reasons why affirmations are scientifically proven to work, because it actually starts to rewire your brain. So I would start saying that to yourself. In terms of your volume, that's very interesting. What I would have you do is I would have you practice speaking with various types of emotions to try to see how it feels to speak at a lower volume. So, for instance, we talked about gratitude as a melody. That's also an emotion. So, I would have you practice different types of emotions and literally see what it feels like. How does it feel? How does your body change when you speak at a lower volume? So you will speak at a lower volume when it comes to something like gratitude, when it comes to something like fear. And that's obviously not a pleasant emotion, but these are just ways to see how your body starts to react and change. So I would play with that a little bit. And then additionally, I would do some exercises in the mirror where you are speaking to yourself at different volumes to get a sense of what it sounds like and what it looks like. And I think in general, the breathing exercises will be really helpful for you because I think you need to be a little more grounded and just feel more confident and in control. Let's see. And the other question was in regards to background noise. So, background noise is tough because we are all working from a variety of different environments right now. So, if you do have a workspace, because maybe you're working from home in a noisy house, or you have a family or kids, or who knows what's going on, one of the best things that you can do is have a white noise machine. There is a white noise machine that I like to use. It's the Lectra. I can always find a link for it and give it to Samantha if that's helpful. But a white noise machine, you can get them for under $50 on Amazon. These are a great way to kind of help with some of the background noise. And then in addition to that, make sure that you have a mic on, either a pair of maybe AirPods or an external microphone with the Snowball Blue that I talked about, and turn on and off your sound in between speaking. So that's going to be one of the best ways to deal with it. Again, that white noise machine can be super helpful. I actually do use that when I am recording voiceover for various commercials. It does work. So definitely give that a try.
Question here from Randy. They said, I've noticed that I use a very high note when I leave a Zoom or FaceTime. Can you offer some tips for signing off, like how you offered for entering a call or a Zoom call?
So I think I lost you there for a second, Samantha. Would you mind
Oh,
repeating that for me?
so sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Okay, perfect. Randy asked, I've noticed that I use a very high note when I leave a Zoom or a FaceTime. Can you offer some tips for signing off, like you offered for entering a call or a Zoom call?
Yeah, yeah. So you're maybe inflecting a little bit upward, like, it was great to see you. You don't want to do that. It makes everything sound more like a question. It doesn't sound very confident. It's a very unsure way of speaking. And it is possibly something that maybe you've picked up over time. It's some sort of a habit that you've built. So, someone that speaks without ever inflecting upward, this is really interesting, is John Hamm. John Hamm always speaks like this. His inflection does not go upward. He's not the most warm person in the world, so I wouldn't necessarily advise you to speak exactly like him. But what you can learn from his speaking patterns is how he does not inflect upward at the end of a sentence. And with the name Randy, I'm assuming that you may be male. So I think that that will be helpful for you to listen to his speaking patterns. Google his commercial that he did a voiceover for. Again, it's the actor John Hamm and Mercedes. So just look that up on YouTube and listen to how he doesn't inflect upward. And I want you to actually mimic that. So literally play it, mimic a sentence, replay it, mimic again. I think that'll help you to get a sense of what is that melody. In addition to that, before you sign off of a call, just take again that nice deep breath in and just give yourself time. I think what's also happening is perhaps you're rushing off this call and then you're going into autopilot and using this old habit. So just take a pause, speak slowly, and say, "Thank you, everyone. It was great to speak to you today." Instead of, "Oh, okay, I know you got to go. Bye." That's what happens a lot on Zoom calls, and it's really inelegant and it really takes away your power in terms of your voice and your communication. So just give yourself that time to do it. One other quick trick in general for everybody is I feel like with scheduling these days, everybody is so back to back. It's really easy to run over, and then you're rushing on and off of calls. Again, really hurting your ability to build a connection with the people you're speaking to, hurting your communication. So always just building those buffers. I know it sounds really simple, but a lot of people are not doing that. And so build in a 5-10 minute buffer in between your calls. It'll really help you to be clear, to be present, and to just have that better communication.
Kate and Shanisa both had a similar question here about speaking with a lisp, and if you have any tips for dealing with that while they're giving presentations or just
Mhm.
talking in general.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, guys. I want you guys to do the pen trick that we talked about earlier. You want to build these muscles, whip them into shape so that they are helping you to have really beautiful diction and to be super clear. And so this again is going to be really, really helpful for you. I really want you guys to try utilizing that. Practice some tongue twisters with the pen in the mouth that have the TH sound, also the F sound, and S sounds. So I want you to go ahead and do that. And you can very easily Google, literally type into Google, tongue twister with an S, tongue twister with an F. A bunch of things will come up, and do this exercise for the two of you every single day. And I want you to maybe even do it for up to 10 minutes. It's going to feel really awkward, but it is going to build those muscles and it's going to make you a better communicator in terms of not having a lisp and being a lot clearer. So please go ahead and try that.
An anonymous attendee asked a great question. What is your opinion of vocal fry, which seems to be so common? And I guess with that question, I'll
Mhm.
add on. And how do you address that and fix it moving forward?
Yeah, yeah. So vocal fry is when someone is basically lifting their vocal cords and they kind of sound like this, like the Kardashians are like, "Oh my God, Chloe, what's going on?" You can literally see I have to lift. I'm literally lifting my vocal cords and my chin is pointed upward when I do that. And it's like, "Oh my God, I can't." So it's that kind of sound. Now, it's kind of common these days, interestingly. I feel like a lot of this kind of like Instagram generation, I'm aging myself here, but I feel like a lot of people speak like that. I think it's become kind of common because it is very non threatening. It sounds very feminine, but I think it also sounds really weak. So I'm not a big fan of it, especially in a professional setting. And additionally, it is actually hurting your vocal cords. So from a health perspective, it's not a good thing to do. So I think that's why it's become popular by some of these, reality stars and whatnot. But please try not to do that. If you want to sound non-threatening, you just go into the higher part of your register, but don't lift up your chin. You can stay here and talk a little bit more up here. And you can go a little bit higher or you can go lower. You can do those two things without actually lifting up your chin. So I would be, if you are doing vocal fry, I'm not sure from the question if you are doing it. If you are, I would try to record yourself on video speaking because I bet you're doing a little bit of this and you're not even realizing it. And then what you can do is you can start to retrain yourself to speak with your eyes forward, your chin parallel to the floor, and that will help you in order to not get that fry effect.
Rebecca asked a question here that I really
Mhm.
like because not all of us are working remotely right now. How can you
Mhm.
better communicate when you have a face mask on?
This one has been coming up a lot. It is really tough. I'm not going to lie. This is a tough one because you're hiding half of your face. So, again, we're losing a lot of nonverbal communication, which is really challenging. One thing that I would do is a lot of what happens when you have this mask on is your sound gets a little muffled. So it's a little bit harder to hear what's happening. So, what you want to do is, I had shown you how to use the tongue placement earlier, where your tongue is a little more forward. I would encourage you to do that when you have the face mask on, because your sound will move forward more so. It'll have more projection. And so it'll be a little bit easier for the other party to literally hear what's happening. So I would try to do that. So move that tongue forward. So again, this is me talking with my tongue kind of in the middle of my mouth, and it's fine, but it's kind of a little bit muffled. It's not that strong. And this is me speaking with my tongue forward. So practice moving your tongue forward with your mask on at home. And I believe that will be a huge help for you. Mhm.
Okay, so we've had 4, 5, maybe even 6 questions all related to the same topic, so I'm gonna lump them all together here. Essentially, people are getting nervous. They're feeling really anxious when they're speaking or giving a big presentation. Do you have any tips for them to not get flustered? Somebody talking about stuttering to help with that, having
Yeah. Mm.
confidence when they're speaking to people who might be a little bit above them in the corporate ladder. Anything kind of related to not getting hung up on the mistakes you made while you're presenting and being able to remain calm, cool, and
Yeah.
collected in that situation.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I could give a whole talk just on this topic. This is so common. So as you can see, we had multiple people ask this question. If you were one of them, you know you're not alone. I talk about this with so many of my clients. So this is very common. There's a million different things we could talk about here. So I'm just thinking about what I want to focus on. I think one great thing that you can do in order to change how you sound is to change what's happening in here. Because there's always two conversations. There's the conversation literally coming out of your mouth, and there's the one you're having with yourself in here. This, whatever's happening in here, will subconsciously come out of here. And so if you can alter this, it will alter how you sound. Now, the way you can do this quite easily, say you're at home, you're about to go on an intense Zoom call, maybe you're presenting to a leadership team. Instead of having the internal thought process of, oh gosh, I'm really nervous. I hope this goes well. Hi, everyone. I'm Melanie. Ooh. No, you do not want to do that. You want it to be, this is going to be so easy. I've got this. I'm so prepared. I love doing this. I love my job. I'm going to kick butt. Hi, everyone. I'm Melanie. Okay, like all of a sudden, it's going to change how you sound. So I would literally say out loud before you jump into that meeting or onto that call a couple of things that are very positive that say, I'm going to do a great job. I'm going to be successful. I'm excited about this. And I know that sounds really simple, but I guarantee it will change how you sound and how you enter that meeting with that confidence. Additionally, some things we talked about breathing technique that will help to ground you. It will help you to speak from that lower register. It will help you to slow down. So remember to get into that nice breathing space, speak a little bit more slowly, give yourself that time to think about what the heck it is you want to say. Once you start rushing, that's really where you're going to run into more problems. So you're going to trip over your words. So try not to do that. Try to be in that space where you're breathing more slowly and you're taking your time. I think in addition to that, what else do I want to cover now? I think maybe one of the other things we can do is thinking a little bit about your your warmth in those situations. So we did talk a little bit about how to warm yourself up a little bit. And one thing that happens sometimes, I think, for individuals that do get nervous is they really memorize what they're about to say. Never do that because you're going to sound really robotic. You want to just have bulleted points that you've maybe memorized or that you've practiced so that you don't come out robotic. So that would be another way to go about handling those nerves. And then I think lastly, one of the most important things you can do is Know your audience. So at the end of the day, you need to know, who are you talking to, right? What are their biggest desires, their biggest misconceptions, and their biggest fears? I want you to always know that whenever you're going into a conversation. And you should address at least one of those things within the first 60 to 120 seconds of speaking. So, for example, when I came on this call today, I said, "I'm Melanie. I am going to teach you some things that I want you to learn that are immediately actionable that you can use the rest of your career." Because you're sitting here thinking, "Is this worth my time? Do I want to stay on this call? What are we actually going to do here? What the heck is executive voice coaching?" I wanted to immediately address that. I could have said, "Oh, I'm Melanie. This is my whole background, blah blah blah." I wanted to immediately let you know, "Hey, look, this is what you're going to get out of being here, and this is the purpose of being here." So I think it's really important for you, if you do get nervous, really know your audience. Again, desires, fears, misconceptions, and try to address one of those things up front so that they really know what they're getting out of this presentation, what the point is, or you deal with that fear, that misconception up front. So I hope that that helps. If there's any follow-ups to that, feel free to throw it in the Q&A, but there's so many things that we could talk about, so I'll stop there for now.
Perfect. And I want to go back to that point you said about, getting confidence and saying it out loud. You said it sounds silly. It 100% is not. We actually had a speaker on in the past few weeks who
Yeah.
talked about research that was done where our brains kind of confuse nervousness and excitement. So if you're nervous about
Mhm.
something and you just say, "I'm really excited about that," as complex individuals as we are, that's enough to confuse yourself into thinking that you're genuinely excited for whatever is happening. So
Yeah.
I love that you said that because it science shows it to be true. Do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you all so much for your questions. Melanie, where can we get in touch with you if we want to learn more or connect with you?
Yeah, so maybe I can throw it in the chat. So I'll put my contact info in the chat right now. My company, guys, is Espeland Enterprises. My name is Melanie Espeland. You can Google both. There's also an email where you can reach me, hello@espelandenterprises.com. I'm going to put this in the chat now so that you have it. And I love connecting with people. I know there was a lot of questions and comments that I was not able to address. So please feel free to get in touch with me because I do want you to feel like you were able to get your answer. So yeah, thank you everyone as well just for your time. I know time is limited these days, so I really do appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Thank you, everyone who joined us today. You'll have the recording and Melanie's contact info in your inboxes by the end of the day. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch you at the next one. Bye.
Bye.